Welcome to episode 98 of the XRM Toolcast. In this episode, Scott and I speak with MK, a product manager at Microsoft, about developer environments. If you don't know what developer environments are, pretend you're on Oprah. And rather than being Oprah giving out cars, it's Microsoft giving out environments. You get an environment, you get an environment, you get an environment. Everybody gets 3 environments. So we talk through the history, where it came from, where it's going, as well as the limitations and the things that are surprising you can do with it. So if you've never heard about developer environments, or you have heard lots, or even more to unpack, so sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the XRM Toolcast. With me, your host, Daryl, always raising the bar, and Scotty, developers, Duro. Scott, how's it going?
Very good, thank you. Wow, that's the Steve Ballmer. Yeah, I'm in
developers.
Definitely.
Yeah, I figured, and this is I'm laying a softball up for you, Scott. I mean, this kind of had something to do with what we were going to talk about today.
Well. You said, how many times did you say developer?
I don't know. I don't know how many times he really did it versus the YouTube video where they just play it over and over again. I think I got 4 in
Put
there.
like fist pumps in the air and sort of awkward dad dancing. Yeah, I mean it's I'm really good, and the sort of sweaty awkward dad dancing. Yeah,
yes.
I'm quite good at that actually, sort of embarrassing the kids, with a bit of awkward. Come on, no one's looking at us. Come on, it's like. Yeah, but I think you should have said developer 3 times.
3 times. I should have said
not because that summons our special guest today, like Dorothy clicking the heels together, just because 3 developer environments. And so yes. There we go. There's your segue.
Yes, there's our segue. Our guest today is none other than MK. MK, do you go just by MK, or that's primary? Okay, so we'll go by MK. A product at Microsoft, so product manager at Microsoft, Carnegie Mellon University, ex-Home Depot, Swiki Jobang Mantra. I'm guessing that's a location somewhere.
It's not a location, but name of companies, but they are all back in India. So yeah.
Okay, all right.
When I was in India, I used to work for them. Yes.
So back in what would have this been? Back in 2003, I think 2002. I think that's when CRM Online started, right? So back in the day that started, we instantly had a problem as developers, and that was, what do we do? What do we develop in when we have an online environment? How do we develop? Because everything's there, it's in the cloud, we don't have access to it. And I feel like 2023, it's taken a little while, but I feel like we finally have an answer to that question. Is this the answer to the question? Is this what we've been waiting for like a decade here?
I don't know entire context of what all you guys are waiting on 2003, but I definitely feel like this is a very amazing solutions for anybody who wants to go ahead and develop stuff. And you guys mentioned very correctly, these are 3 dev environments that you can get. So these developer environments, we always acknowledge that, everybody gets excited about Dataverse. It's cool functionality, and you guys have published great videos also about it, and they know it from so many sources. But whenever they have to think about, I want to try this particular feature, they're like, oh my god, I don't have a license, I don't have right kind of permissions to try out Dataverse, so I don't know whether what I'm thinking I can accomplish, can I actually do it or not, or is it something that fits in my needs? And that is one problem that we figured out, and we are trying to solve using developer environments, where it's okay, you are into a default environment where you're oh my god, will I mess up what Scotty was working on yesterday and make some error, and I'm just a new dev, I'm trying to work on something. So this developer environment starts as your own personal environment. So you're okay, I can start building solutions, I can try building applications, etc., and I'll not mess up anybody else's work. I don't need additional license than what you already have in order to access those dev environments. So it's okay, this is my space, I'll start working on those things. And if that answers what you were looking for in 2003, then probably this is it.
I meant 2013. I was a decade off.
Okay.
You're out by a decade, Daryl.
I was off by a decade. Yeah,
wow, that's
decade here, decade there.
Well, I mean, back in the day, we always
I'm
used
still
to
in
have.
my 30s, Scott.
Well, yeah, thanks for that, Daryl. Yeah. But yeah, back in the day, we used to have virtual machines on our machine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it was like, okay, how are we going to work in a way where I don't step on somebody else's toes? I don't do some customizations that's going to affect someone else. I mean, you mentioned like messing things up. I'm usually the first one to mess stuff up. So, you know, having an environment that I can mess stuff up in,
Yes.
and no one else really know about it. That's a good thing. And I like the fact that you know, with the VM, right, you could reset it. That was so cool about it. Or take a snapshot and you could just, you know, I've done something wrong, I'm going to reset it back to a backup or something like that. So it was like an isolate. And I think developers that is the nirvana for all developers, being able to have an environment where they can do things in absolute isolation. And I think that's really been the challenge, is moving from an on-premises kind of development type mechanism to the cloud, where everything now is someone else's computer. And suddenly you've now got this whole licenses thing that you were talking about, MK. You know, that's fundamentally been the real problem to get from where we were to where we were, because where we were, it was like, okay, licenses weren't a problem. But now suddenly you've got compute time, and you've got storage space, and you've got bandwidth, and you've got all these things to worry about because it's someone else's computer and you're using that, you know, all of those resources. So, you know, is it really for free? I mean, this is the thing that
it's not for free. It's included in what you're already paying for. So that's a difference, right? Okay, you can't just say it's free. It's just, if you're already.
Well, what's the minimum? What's the minimum licenses you have to get a developer? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I'll answer that. And before we jump into it, I just want to clarify one thing, because we've talked so much about developer, and that word itself sounds like scary to some folks who are more like, oh, I want to be a low-code, no-code developer, and oh, this is developer environment. Is it meant for me? So just wanted to clarify, this is more of a terminology, but if you are a citizen dev or if you're a pro developer, it is not something like, oh, you have to be really tech savvy in order to get this environment, etc. It's just the name. So even if you are pro dev, are you citizen dev, go ahead and try out dev environment overall. But now I'll come to your second question.
So hold on. So developer, so personal trash can, like, didn't go over as a good name. Like, this is your personal trash can. That wasn't, marketing didn't approve of that.
Yeah, I think so. Like, there are some legal troubles that we can get into with that naming, but that's a good recommendation. I'll take it up in next
It's less scary.
presentation. Yeah, right? Yeah. Cool. So now coming to like the licenses itself. So if you have already existing Power Platform license that gives you access to make a portal, or any other license type like Dynamic or Office that gives Power App as well as into package of it, you should be able to access it. So if you are able to log into Power Applications with your login credentials, you should be able to get an access to these environments.
Okay, so access into log into Power Apps environment. So even if you're not even like an Power Apps admin, just as low level citizen dev as you can, like, they have access to one of these environments.
Yes, and those are the ones that we are hearing very closely on. Like, they get into so many troubles, and they want certain place that they want to get started in, and many a times it's very hard to reach out to your admin to get an environment, etc., or to get certain kind of permission. So this unblocks you, and then you can go ahead into the environment that your admin suggests as your prod environment, etc., to do the actual thing. But yeah, like, this is a right place to get started on.
So anyone who wants to get started with Dataverse or Power Apps, or the Power Platform in general, has got this as a way of starting that journey.
Yes.
So do I need an existing kind of Power App subscription? Or because like the developer community edition, you used to be able to just sign up for that, you know, just without, you know, you could do it for free effectively. You didn't need to not have any pre-existing license in your organization. You could just say, okay, well, what's your name? You know, what's your domain name for a company? And there you go. You got an environment. Has that changed? Can you now get 3 of these environments for no pre-existing license?
That particular entry point that you are referring to as a community page, there's nothing that has changed on it. That exists as is. But we are using the same environment, but we are just surfacing it on the entry point, because it's amazing that you guys know about it, but there are many who don't know about this option and its availability. So we are just surfacing it little better for them in Maker Portal. Like, when you are thinking about environment, the first place you go is environment picker, and you'll click on it and you'll see that banner. And over there, when you see the list of environments that overwhelm you, or you're like, okay, other than default, is there a place I could get started? And you see that banner and you know that, okay, this is a place where I can get started on if I have to start something on Dataverse, or if I don't have permissions, or if I am scared of doing things in default environment. So necessarily it's the same dev environment that already used to exist. It's just that we have made some improvements to it in past couple of months, and also surfaced into it to different entry points so that it's easy for you. You just don't have to do another search to figure out this community plan.
I love that little banner. I love it. The fact that it's like, hey, look, you could it just signposts you right in there and allows you just to create
the success, right? You don't know what you're doing. You just kind of fall into it, right? Oh, this is right where I need to be. Yay.
Yeah.
Falling into the pit of success. Yeah. It's like,
yes.
Yeah. So when you create, as we said, you can create 3 of these environments
per person, right?
So an organization that has got an existing Power Platform subscription, for every single member of staff that they have in their Azure tenant, can create 3 environments for themselves.
They can, if those are all the ones who want to like come in and practice experience Dataverse. Yeah, so like, of course, and those are the ones for whom we have this experience as well. So to get the other 2 environments that you wish to, you can go to PPAG experiences, because those are the ones that experience continues to exist, because after you get your first dev environment, that banner doesn't show up. So you can go to PPAG in order to get your additional 2 dev environments if needed. And the reason of giving these 2 additional dev environments other than the one you already have is ALM, because we know that how much people benefit from ALM. There's so much improvements that have been done. They want some environment as their dev, test, and prod, like not actual prod, but when they're testing out and experiencing those ALM capabilities, they need that 3 environment. So it cannot be that when we are giving you one dev environment and you have to do ALM, you have to again go to your other environments where you were already struggling in. So this is to make that journey of yours very easy, where you can go ahead and experience everything all together and adopt and use it always.
Yeah.
So if you only have on-prem, does that mean that you don't have a way to, I'm assuming you don't have a license for that then? You wouldn't be able to actually create a dev environment.
On-prem as on permissions?
No, on-premise. If you're only on-premise, you don't have a cloud Azure environment, Azure subscription, then or Dataverse subscription. Like you wouldn't be able to create a Dataverse developer environment then, right?
No, like in this one, you don't have to have that Dataverse itself in order to get a different license itself to get these environments. These environments are included in your Power Platform license already. So even if your organization altogether doesn't have a Dataverse license, overall, you should still be able to get a Dataverse environment, and you should still be able to get an access to Dataverse. It's similar to what you could be doing with community plan as well, because your tenant may or may not be having Dataverse license as of now, but you can go ahead and go to the community page and get that environment for yourself that provides you Dataverse. It's necessarily that, okay, if you are trying out something before you have that environment where you can experience those things, before you go to your IT admins and say that, oh, we love Dataverse, can we have license for it? But that also gives you some place where you are like, okay, I did 5 different things or 10 different things using this environment, and okay, it previously used to take me 10 days and to this one was super easy. I love that experience. So that you can have that experience itself where you can have those conversations also, because we can't expect you to advocate for us till the time we have not experienced it. So yeah.
All that sounds lovely, but really what it comes down to is this is a drug and the first one's free. That's what it's coming down to. We want you to get hooked on it.
Dataverse is addictive. When I started using it, I was like, I love how quick it is. So it's addictive. So this is just a first medicine.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is if you can get people to experience all of the goodness of the Power Platform, then they're going to see how it's going to be applicable to their organization. I mean, we've talked about Dataverse. Is everything else from the Power Platform available in these developer environments? Where does it start and where does it stop?
Okay, cool. So that's a good question. In terms of everything else, there could be a huge list. So overall, like major things that are possible are Dataverse and many other capabilities. In terms of things that are limited is like the Synapse, etc., or AI Builder. There are certain limitations on those kind of functionalities. In terms of data, it has a 2 GB limitations overall in terms of capacity that is there. And also this one is more for development purposes than for the production use, and that's how tenant admins also want this to be positioned, because they have different processes itself for production. So we don't want makers to like use this as a place over there. So if you are thinking about building some application that has many users, then I would advocate that you go ahead and do it in your sandbox or production environments that are better suited for it. But this is a good place to get started on when you are doing it under 2 GB and like you want certain critical capacities, but is okay that there are certain things that are not available.
I love the fact that you get the little watermark, like the little message, because that to me. So when you log it, when you create an application in a development environment, it says, this is a development environment. It's not intended for production use. I mean, that to me is like the perfect way of expressing it, because you're not restricting the capabilities. You're just making it very clear the intention of that environment. And I think that to me is just like when you use the sort of the freemium model for any service. You might, I don't know, if you take a video editing software or something, you export it and it's fine. But you can only export it at a low resolution, or there's maybe there's some kind of cut down functionality that's really frustrating. But actually the ones that are more successful is when they say you've got all of the access except for it just has the big banner of saying, this is a trial version across it, and you're like, okay, I can still use it. It's just that I'm not going to be able to publish my videos into YouTube without people knowing that I haven't paid for it.
Yeah, and for those things, we already have trial environments if somebody have to use it for limited ones. And me personally, as a person, many a times when you're starting to work on something, you just don't know if you're going to finish in 1 month, or you don't know if you're going to be finishing in like 15 days, etc. So this one is like, okay, we are not restricting the capabilities. You have it for as much time as you want. Just continue to use it and be respectful of like how this environment is intended to use for your company as well as for Microsoft overall. And you are all good. And that banner that Scott you pointed out, that's definitely one place where we try to communicate to our makers who are using these environments.
Yeah, it's you just see dismissing it, kind of goes away for a little while and then kind of comes back again. You're like, oh, how does it know when to come back again? When I've
it's watching you.
There I am. But it's funny you mentioned the trial environments, because obviously with the trial environment you can pester support and they'll extend it, kind of up to 90 days or something, where you can kind of add that. But the thing about the trial environments is that you do get access to things like the first party apps, the Dynamics apps, through those trial environments. And that's one of the things I think to me is a little bit challenging with the development environments. If you're using a development environment for a Dynamics 365 project, it's right that you can't get those dynamics. That's right, isn't it? You can't get those apps in your development environment.
You're 100% right. Like Dynamics 365 applications are currently not available on dev environments. If it changes, I'll let you guys know, but not today. But yeah, they can still, like, makers can go ahead and use trial environments in order to, like, get that experience overall, like, as of today.
Okay. So that's there. You have other avenues still available for you for trying those things out.
Correct.
But that's not what the purpose of the dev environments for. And I'm assuming that that's probably because it's a whole lot more expensive and there's more licensing that you have to worry about when you deal with the other stuff that you don't have to do if you just do more of a bare level Dataverse implementation.
Yeah.
Right?
In terms of, like, there's so many things that we can do, invest in to make that experiences better. So, like, maybe, like, one day you never know. So never say never. So who knows? Yeah.
I'm just upset all these whippersnappers that didn't grow up on like an on-premise server where they wouldn't attach the debugger to the environment and they killed everybody else's, like, the entire server and brought it down here. But, like, you got to do that once or twice just to remember that, yes, this is running somewhere else. But now it's all magic, all these environments.
It's a rite of passage that someone, you're connecting the debugger and then going to lunch, and then
everyone's yelling when you get back. I can't do anything. Can't test anything. You broke everything. It does feel like this is like Scott's ultimate. The fruition of Scott's ultimate. Your environment should be cattle. So maybe not personal trash can environment, but Betsy environment, some cow name. I guess you could have, what would be another cow name? Betsy. Are there other cow names? I don't know. Betsy
Daisy.
Like
Daisy is Daisy.
Yeah. Daisy milk. Daisy. Yeah. Daisy. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is we're going to treat our environments as cattle, but have cutesy names for them.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
That's basically your naming convention for all your environments now. Coming with silly little. Yeah. But it's, I think, that treating environments as cattle. I mean, the great thing is that you can reset them, right? You can just reset your environments and it just creates a fresh. Can you back them up? Can you create like a backups and restore points?
Yes, like Scott, like in today's world, like before, like with community page, like previously it was not something available, but now you can reset your environment. It will just clean up whatever was there in your existing environment and you can just start fresh if you want to. Backup and restore, like it has a backup for up to like 7 days, etc. So that should give you some leeway in case there is some mess up that happened, like before you go for lunch or etc. So these kind of things can happen, but it's up to 7 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that just one backup then for 7 days? Can you have multiple backups stored?
Up to 7 days. So it will have that kind of like versions for like those kind of days, but it is not something very similar to Sandbox, which has 30 days, etc. So the time frame is little different for dev environments.
Okay. And there's no getting into some weird place where I think the production backup time limit's different than the Sandbox, and so you could take your production down and back it up, but then when you go to restore it, now it's not production and now it's Sandbox, and now you've like lost your backup, and it's like, I thought I had this and now I don't. Like, I guess you probably don't have to worry about that because it's just Sandbox the whole way through, isn't it? All right. Now, sorry. I answered my own question. I do that sometimes.
Super cool.
So the ALM angle you mentioned, MK, I mean that's so in vogue now, right? Because people are really realizing that all of this great stuff needs to be controlled, it needs to be governed, but also part of the governing is making sure that you can make things repeatable and get control of versioning and all of that good stuff. And obviously, recently we've had the announcement about Power Pipelines. Actually, we had Carsten Groth on last on a recent episodes, and he was telling us about all of the good stuff that's there. So, is that something that you can enable in developer environments? Can you have like a 3-stage environment to test that out?
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Like before coming here, I did see that you guys already spoke about pipelines. I was like super happy about that. Your audience already knows about pipelines. So in terms of like one of the primary reason, as I said before, was giving 3 environments was for giving makers an ALM function, and pipeline is something that is provided. Like pipeline is something that they should be able to use with these dev environments. So part of like with reset, we also gave them a function of copy that you can use through ppack, where now you can copy whatever was there in your dev environment to any other dev or sandbox environment. So for example, if you're using pipelines and you need 3-stage process, etc., you should be able to easily move and deploy your solutions around these 3 environments, use single click deployment, all the goodness of pipelines that is there, and use it between all these 3 environments. It really makes it very simpler for devs for in terms of like a longer term kind of a function, because ALM is definitely something super useful.
I keep on having these ideas in my head of what this is like. I'm sorry, like they're great. Like, you know, I'm thinking like you go to Costco on a Saturday and they've got all this like free food for you to try, and you're like, it's right over here, and I just like this is wonderful. Like this is what I want. It's like walking into
Costco, only for development purposes, as we said.
Yes, because you eventually you want us to go and get the actual frozen chicken nuggets out of the freezer and take them home with us.
They frown on you if you keep coming back for those free samples until you're full.
I just tell them I have a lot of kids.
I've had it, it's like
I've got a lot of kids.
Yeah. You get three free samples, and after that, there's somebody who's frowning.
Yes. It's going to fill my bag here. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, say about the copy, right? Because that's hugely powerful. I mean, that being able to copy especially from sandboxes, right? Because you could imagine having a development kind of shared development environment that you've got in your sandbox, and then when people are starting, developers working on something, either low code or pro code, doesn't matter. You could take that copy and then start to do your customizations.
Yeah. And only place where we restrict you to not copy from dev environments to another environment is production environment, because nobody wants to override what's happening in production. So we allow between dev environments, and we also allow you to copy from dev to like sandbox.
This goes back to my pit of success. Yeah. What are you doing? No, you're not going to do that. No, don't.
Yeah, don't do it on production, because I think then you will be definitely messing up its work of so many more people. Yeah.
Other environments are all backed up. You can always restore.
Yeah.
Downtime, people not being able to work, that kind of thing. Found.
So the kind of the whole the range of Power Platform products. You mentioned AI Builder, there being some restrictions. What about things like PVA, Power Virtual Agent, those kind of things? Is that all included? All of those parts of the platform as well?
Yes, these part of platforms are included in these things. The things that are not included are AI and Dynamic 365 apps, or the Synapse, etc., data lake capabilities, etc., are the limitations when it comes to dev environments.
Is there a limit on who can access your environment? How many people can you share it with? A certain number of people? Can you not share it with anybody? Like, what's hey Bill, come over here, check out what I made. Like, how does that work?
In terms of collaborating with anybody else, like if I had to share it with you guys, in terms of look what app I'm building, you should be able to completely share it. Like there is none of like maker restrictions of any sort, where we want, like, if you use the co-authoring features that are there, like now doing co-authoring is so much easier. So okay, you utilize it as much as possible. In terms of like runtime usage, again, because it's a dev environment, it allows you to share it, but after a certain time you might see a performance issues, etc. So then you move to a sandbox environment, because this is not a prod environment.
So there's nothing that's keeping you from doing it outside of the fact that, hey, this is not going to run on the same hardware than the cloud. So if you try to get 20 people in there, you're gonna have a sad day.
Yeah, no, but like in terms of like the limit can be even like lesser than that. It's more about like when you are in the stage where you're trying to build something and you want help and collaborate, do it as much as possible, because that's how you're gonna learn and see like, okay, like I learned so much from my peers. So yes, you do. But in terms of like runtime, like this is a place for development. So runtime is an activity we expect that it happens in production. It's not that it's entirely limited. You are able to do that for some X number of users, but after that you will hit a performance issue. So it's better to, at that time when you are confident, start moving it to the production or sandbox environments.
Yeah, I was really encouraged to see that when I first, tried out, because I have to admit, I was assuming that it was like too good to be true, to be honest. I was like, oh, well, it's going to be limited just to me, because, they can't just give away all of this cool stuff, and I was like, hey, wait a minute, I can share this with people and they can then work and they can test the apps and they can even co-author the apps. And, so like you say, for the actual collaboration and that kind of fusion dev, there's nothing stopping you. But, when you, like you say, when you get to a point where you've got a much more, an environment that's a little bit more important in your ALM lifecycle, I guess that's perhaps the time where you would use a sandbox rather than a developer environment.
Absolutely.
So, so since 2011, 2013, I'll get the correct decade this time.
2003 or 2013? Are we sure about the
what year is it? Just.
Oh, okay. All right. That's it. I quit.
It's late for you. We have to give Daryl a really
dark outside. I was up early this morning.
Seattle most of the time, so you can't say dark outside.
Okay. Anyway, so my question was, what instigated this? Hey, you know what? Let's just give all this stuff away for free. Like, what was that pivot point? Because I feel like at some point in time, it was like, yeah, you know what? It was either like agreeing with everybody else that, hey, this is right, you need to have it, or somebody said, you know what, this is good, we need to just give this away. Like, do you have any idea in the background how this came to be?
Yeah, there was like multiple series of discussions, but it was more about like community plan or like dev plan always existed. It was not something that was built in last 1 month or like last 1 year itself. It was something that already existed. But whenever we used to come ahead and talk to people, that they're like, okay, I can't try it out. And we're like, okay, why can't you do it on dev environments? And they're like, I don't know about what dev environments is. And whenever we share that link, it is like, okay, I didn't know that this is something that I can do. And there's a lot of excitement. So then we realized that there is a place that we did set up many years ago, but it's somewhere very deep and very hidden where many people are not aware about it. And okay, like how to find that gem itself. So we just try to do certain things to make it more useful, like giving more environments or giving reset or copy functions, or maybe like in future we might invest on multiple other things on those dev environment itself. We are like, okay, we have something that we have invested in, but if our makers or our developers don't know about it, then there is nothing useful that is coming out of it. So it's more about like now surfacing it at a right place where at least everybody knows about that. Okay, this is a place that you can get started on. So it always existed.
So what I'm hearing is that there were long ago these environments of power, maybe even like rings of power that you can grab, and then you may think you're doing the right thing, but then all of a sudden you're controlled by something else. I don't know. No. That analogy failed. I'm sorry. I was trying to get there. That one failed.
The rings of power in the background.
The development environments of power.
Environments of power.
Well, I mean, walking around little hood.
It does feel to me, I mean, it feels so much of a pivotal part of where the platform is going, because whenever there is a way of getting so much functionality and so much storage and all of the good stuff you get with the Power Platform effectively just there, for anybody to use. That's just like huge, it just removes so many different barriers. What happens if an organization says, you know what, I don't really want people to be doing this, because like everyone talks about governance, right? So
yeah,
what's the other side of this coin of the ring and the inside? I don't know. I can't do that. I can't do that. But what's what would you say? What's the sort of the angle on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there are so many tenant admins who will be like, okay, I like as you said, like if every person in my organization start creating those, I have like too many environments to go on, and there could be certain admins who need that time to understand what this environment is before they might make that kind of a decision. So in tenant settings, when you go, you have a button to disable it for your tenant, but you can still as an admin access it and see the capability. And then if you feel like, okay, this is something useful, you can again go ahead and toggle and make it enabled. But there are like some investments that we are doing already and we plan to do next as well is on the governance, because that is something that is definitely on top radar for us, because we want like make us to have lesser barriers. But if admins are having issues on governing, they might not there would be still a barrier. So we definitely want to manage those. As a tenant admin, you also now have dev environments as managed environments, where you can go ahead and select those dev environments and put down the certain policies, get certain data that you're interested in, so as to know that what exactly is happening in those dev environments. So that is something that we're continuously investing on as well. But you also have this kind of a functionality also existing today. And there's so many scripts in using which you can do it for all your environment type. If there are 10 dev environments in your organization, you can have MEA, etc. on all those environments. So yes, you can leverage those kind of functionalities if you can, and if you still need time, you can turn it for time being and utilize it and then turn it on.
So at the moment, it's a kind of an all or nothing. That's what I'm hearing. But then but potentially in the future, there may be to say, okay, well, if you're in this group of people, you're allowed to create and remove and delete dev environments. And if you're in this group of people, you're not. Is that somewhere we might see in the future?
And nothing that is like planned for outside communication as of now, but there are like multiple things that we are doing, like in terms of like overall making the governance very much easier. And if we continue to hear that admins want even more sophisticated control, we'll invest in it. But that is definitely something that is on top priority for us as a company.
Can you? One of the things about this, the XRM talkcast is we always end up saying, "Can it do this? It'd be great if it could do this." It's just like So apologies. So I think at this point we're getting to that stage in the show, this segment where we start to get our set of wishes. What I would like for Christmas is, but it's is there any way of creating a dev environment for a particular person? Because like say you turn off dev environments for everyone. You can imagine there being some kind of you create like a power app, like a self-service with some sort of approval workflow. Is that something that admins could do?
Today, what you can do is something that, you can create a dev environment for yourself and you can share it with somebody else. Like if I can share it with the people I want to give an access to. But again, there is a limit to 3 environments in that case itself. In terms of capability that you are asking for, probably maybe, let's see whenever we plan to do it. Something that's not planned yet, but maybe by Christmas, who knows?
It sounds like the type of thing that if the environment allowed it, that it would be up the Power Cat's alley to go through and be able to expose it in a way that you can handle with governance. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. If there was a way of sort of admins creating on behalf of somebody else, so it becomes their dev environment, that would be, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that we have heard from many of the community and the champions and MVPs that we have engaged with, where some of the companies have come up with this particular ask, but as of like any release or anything planned, we don't have an answer yet on it. But
so in the meantime, I guess just making sure that organizations have a good DLP policy, making sure that, that people can't just create an environment and then start to publish stuff to random, using random connections. As long as an organization's got a good governance on DLP, then yeah, just I can't imagine why they'd ever turn off this amazingly awesome feature.
Yeah, and and to mention that, like, all our environments get the default tenant DLP policy itself. So developer environments for all the tenants also gets the default DLP policy, whatever has been set up by the tenant admin. So tenant admins don't have to worry about it. But if there's something that they want to change specifically for dev environments, that, I blocked these things on default environment, but I want to do it for dev environments, they can go ahead and do it specifically and select those environments and change their policies.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, MK, is there anything else that we've missed? I think we've kind of talked to the future. We talked to some of our desires. We talked to the history of it back in 2001, whatever stupid number I came up with. And, so is there anything we're missing?
No, I think we covered all of it, and it's more about that history is actually very important, because that is something that has been there, that we know that many have asked for or were looking for certain solution where they could get started on. But yes, I don't know how many years it has been, but yeah, the solution is there.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, if our listeners have other questions or things they may want to ask or wish for, MK, what's a good way for them to get a hold of you? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Twitter?
Speaking to you guys. No, but you guys can reach out to me on LinkedIn in order to, if there's specific feedback that you have or something that your company is looking for, you can always reach out to me through LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Scott, that's how our listeners can get a hold of our guests. How can our listeners get a hold of us?
Well, Daryl, yes, you can email us at cast@xrmtoolbox.com, or you get us on LinkedIn and Twitter at xrmtoolcast. Yeah, so we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, MK, it's been fantastic. And I just personally, think this is the best thing since sliced bread, as they say. So yeah.
And MK, you do have the record for the most anticipated show we've ever done, because this is the longest, before I asked, we actually had the show. This is the longest we've ever gone. I reached out to you back in August, and we finally got around to scheduling now.
I'm so sorry. I think it has been yes, I'm sorry about that.
You've been busy doing all this awesome stuff. It's you can't get in the way of that.
Yeah.
But now we have spoken, so now we'll speak more whenever new things come.
It would be our pleasure to have you back. Yes.
Yes. Yep. Keep on making great stuff free, and we'll have you on anytime you want.
Is it only for the free stuff, or is it for other stuff also?
I don't know, but it certainly sweetens the pot, doesn't it, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, it was great meeting you, great talking to you, and have a wonderful evening. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It was great being there, and I had a great time speaking to both of you.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This has been the XRM Toolcast with Daryl Labar and Scott Daryl. Produced by Lynn Zawin. If you have any questions or suggestions, please send them to cast@xrmtoolbox.com, tweet @xrmtoolcast, or hit us up on our LinkedIn XRM Toolcast page.